What's up again, everybody? I don't know about you, but I am very much missing playing the game Flesh and Blood in person. I love playing this game, and I get that there's like online ways to do it. In fact, I made a video about ways to play Flesh and Blood online, but honestly, it just doesn't capture the same feeling for me that playing in person, doing drafts or sealed events or even some constructed level events in person has for me. I love the tactile sense of it, and I love sitting across from my opponent and like talking with them while we play. There's something that is just missing from that on the online format. Maybe I guess if you played with webcams and like physical cards, some of that would get a little bit better. But nevertheless, I am so looking forward to the possibility of a third set and the hopefulness within me of things very safely starting to open up here in America so that we can sit down to the table again and play some Flesh and Blood. I'm really excited for this third set for a couple of reasons, and let me show you why. So this is the little page that they have kind of talking about it. I'm gonna make it bigger on my screen so I can read it for you. Hold on. So the third set is due out in August. It's Crucible of War, and they've got some kind of interesting little stats here, or it's not really stats, it's more just explaining the thing. 198 cards in the set, 10 cards per pack, 24 packs per display, 4 displays per case. Sure. You get the premium foil, you get a rare or higher, a rare 1 per pack, and then 7 commons. Okay, this is all very similar to what we've seen before, though I think the cards in set number is smaller than a normal set. I'm pretty sure that's right. Someone tell me the numbers on that one, but I'm fairly certain that's correct. Now the bottom is where it gets interesting because I'm really excited about what they say here. Throw open the armories and turn up the forge and rally your allies from near and far. Bring all your skills, luck, and damn best gear to bear as you're plunged headfirst into the Crucible of War. It is a supplementary booster set, which I think is amazing. Okay, supplementary portion that includes powerful weapons and equipment and opens up new strategies and deck building options for all of your favorite classes. Okay, here's why I'm so excited for this set. I love the idea of a supplementary set that allows the game to expand at a faster rate than full sets do. Because when you release a full set, I feel like you have to put a lot of space in between those, months and months and months in between those, in order for it to really take hold, like you're growing something, right? You're growing something in the ground, you have to water it and it has to take hold and grow from there. Whereas if you release these supplementary sets that are maybe slightly smaller in scope, but are more focused on specific things, like for example, this one mentions powerful weapons and equipment, so it gives us the possibility of new weapons for all of our classes that we like, new equipment for all of our classes that we like. I really love that idea because I feel like you can release these at a faster clip going forward. So I'm really hoping that they lay into that idea going forward. And that brings me to what I want to talk about today. Here are 3 things that I am most hoping that we can see in this Crucible of War supplementary set. These are things that I've just had floating around my head for the past few days, and I wanted to get it down in a video so I could hear what you guys think about this. So here are the 3 things that I hope to see within this set. And of course, at this point, there are no spoilers. There's literally just these 2 screen grabs that I got off the website. So thing number 1, I would absolutely love to see weapons or equipment that fundamentally change the way that you win the game, or at the very least give you an opportunity to build whole brand new archetypes that can help you diversify the way that you win the game, if that makes any sense. So essentially what I'm getting at is I would like to see weapons and equipment, and I think we are going to get this because it makes a ton of sense to release a set that does this. Weapons and equipment that expand the scope of how you can build a deck and how you can go about winning the game. Because right now we've got very similar archetypes across the entirety of the classes, right? You can go wide, play a bunch of things that deal damage. You can go tall, play one thing that deals a whole bunch of damage. And then there's some like really fringe sort of combo decks, but I mean, it is what it is, right? Those aren't, I mean, there's some control. I guess we can also kind of talk about that. There's control and there's aggro, but really it's just kind of right there, right? There's very similar parity across all of these classes. But what I would hope to see is that when they debut these weapons and these equipment that are mentioned on this little solicits banner, that we see weapons that allow you to, maybe just win the game in a completely different way. That sounds really crazy and outlandish. Literally something like, if you use this weapon and it hits 5 times, then your opponent takes 20 damage. Or if you meet this requirement, then something crazy happens. Because then all of a sudden the deck building that you're doing changes completely on its head, right? So all of a sudden now you can build in a totally different way, and we start to get more varied archetypes, right? Something like, for example, ninjas as a class. If there was a steal mechanic, or if there was a new weapon that somehow did something with stealing cards from your opponent, or like a sneak attack type thing, they already have the combo archetype. I don't even want to call it archetype because it's a keyword. But if they had something like that that made it thematically different from just a straight up go wide ninja kind of thing, that would be super interesting. And a supplementary set is a place to do that, because you can add the support cards within that set for a specific archetype that you want to create, right? Maybe a freeze mage or a freeze wizard that has these frost effects that do something secondary along down the line, that don't just deal arcane damage, but all of a sudden have, you know, interesting effects along the lines. I think it would be amazing to get equipment and weapons that push the classes into widely different ranges, if you will. Okay, here's thing number 2. I would love to see an increased viability of common equipment, or, I mean, if they wanted to, like rare equipment, that sort of thing. And it's sort of a pulling down of the power level of the legendary equipments, because I feel as though it's sort of making it a little tricky to convince new players to jump in when you tell them, yeah, you can create a pretty viable deck with commons and rares like mostly the way through. You look at some decks on like FabDB, for example, and a lot of them are running, you know, commons and rares and that sort of thing alongside the few supers and mythics within the class itself. But then you tell them, oh yeah, and there's the legendary equipment, that one's gonna run you like $100. And then, yeah, you want to go get the Fangdal's Spring Tunic. Yeah, that's going to run you like a couple $100. And when you try to tell that to a new player, it makes them go, oh, maybe I don't have the money to invest into this game because I'm also already playing this other game or this game. And I would love to be able to say those cards are super good, and they're super good for the game, and it's amazing when you open one of those, and the feeling that you get when you like play that card is really great. But there's also this common version that may not be as good, but man, does it do the trick. It's still really, really strong, and you may actually have to weigh the options between running that legendary versus running that powerful common. When you lower the standard bar of entry on things like equipment that we've traditionally seen for the first 2 sets have been incredibly power level high for legendary equipment, like I've got to run that skull cap, or I've got to, you know, you get the picture, right? When you lower that bar, it makes it a lot easier to sell this game to a new player, and that's something that I want to do going forward, because this game is so much fun to play and to build for, that if I can tell new players, hey, yeah, there's great cards that are high powered and high value if you can open them, but there's also some really great cards that you're going to probably open in the first pack of your entire you know, life going forward into Fab. That would be, I think, a great selling point going forward. So that's my number 2. I would love to see them raise some of the power levels of common equipment going into this 3rd set that is all about weapons and equipment. Okay, and the final thing, and this one kind of goes hand in hand with my first point about the idea of creating more variety, and I think this is coming no matter what. Just because the more sets they release, this is going to happen. I would love to see an expanded card pool for generic cards, okay? When you think about it, and I've thought about this a lot, when you think about deck building within this game, just like deck building in any game, you have restrictions for deck building, right? You can't put ninja class cards into a Runeblade deck, right? It's not interfaceable. Right? It reminds me of the old school Star Wars Destiny game, where you couldn't combine certain characters' cards because they couldn't cross over, right? It's kind of like in Magic, where you can't put blue cards in a red deck unless, you know, you want to invest in putting all these other things along with it, right? Similar in that respect. But when there's a hard cutoff, like you can't include these cards in this card pool for this class with this class of cards, when there's a hard cutoff, like you never can do it, well, then you run into this issue where the only way to create variety in deck building is to just print more cards, right, for that class. Or the other way is to just print really strong or really good or really flexible generic cards, and to create a large generic card pool that provides players different options, branch off points to deck build with. And I think that's something that I would most like to see going forward with this set and any set going forward past this. The more generic class cards that people can tap into and add to these other decks, these other archetypes and these other classes, I think the better. Now, obviously, if you create so many that you don't ever want to play class cards, then you got a problem. But I think that's just as much a balance issue than it is like a real issue that we might see. So those are the three things that I am most excited to see if we actually get in Crucible of War. Now, I could talk a lot about the things that I as a fanboy like hope to see, like crazy little weapons and combo things that go off. And the type of player that I am not necessarily the type of player that loves to sit down with a list and just optimize. I like to do something like random and crazy, or try this thing or try that thing. I like to tinker with decks. And so for me, these three things came from that perspective of wanting to have an expanded card pool and have more options and more things to try within the game. But I'd like to hear from you. What are the three things you would most like to see in the upcoming Crucible of War expansion, or any future expansions? Let me know in a comment below. If you like Flesh and Blood, if you like this content, or you want to support this channel, feel free to give me a like and a subscribe. People say to hit that bell notification. I still don't know what that means. I think it tells you that something's live, but doesn't that also happen if you're subscribed? I don't know. If you know what the bell notification is, let me know in a comment below. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.